Hello and welcome to Radiant and Inspiring TV. I am your host Kylie Anderson and I'm so thrilled to have you here for episode 5 with Amy Taylor-Kabbaz. Amy is a writer, producer, speaker, mindful mama coach and mother to 3 young children. After more than a decade covering breaking news and current affairs for the ABC around the country, her traditional career took an unexpected turn when she found herself lost, overwhelmed, and diagnosed with a thyroid condition after the birth of her first daughter. 8 years later and 2 more babies, she now runs a successful website for new mums, Happy Mama, which includes the highly successful Reconnect online program and Happy Mama podcast. Is an internationally accredited life coach specializing in mindfulness and self-care, a columnist, a regular contributor on parenting, natural health and wellness in various magazines and media, and author of the new book Happy Mama, The Guide to Finding Yourself Again. I had such a great chat with Amy. You are going to find so many pearls of wisdom in our chat. I really hope you enjoy it. She is a mama that tells it like it is. She's raw, she's real, and she's honest. And I really hope you enjoy this episode. So grab yourself a cuppa, get comfortable, and enjoy this interview with Amy. Hi Amy, thank you so much for joining me this afternoon on Radiant and Inspiring TV. It's so great to have you here.
Oh, I'm thrilled to do this. Thanks, Kylie.
My pleasure. So let's just dive straight in. I would love to know, who is Amy, like before you were a mum and now? Tell us.
2 very different women.
Yeah.
Before I was mum and now. I guess the best way to sum my story up is that I have always been a very ambitious, very driven young woman. Like so many of my generation, had grand plans of what I would do with my life. And although children was always a lovely idea, and I'm sure if I was to sit down and write my life plan when I was 18, there was going to be kids in there somewhere. But at that stage, it was foreign correspondent for the ABC, living in New York, doing all of these amazing things was my goal. And I was pretty much on track, doing really well. And then I got to 30. Got married, and suddenly that beautiful biological clock started ticking. And that's really my sliding doors moment, that moment where my life started to change. My pregnancy was really wonderful, thank goodness. But then once that labour started, that's when my life really began to change. And like so many mums, that first baby really rocked my world. Completely overwhelmed me, and she wasn't a very well baby at birth, and I wasn't very well, but I didn't realise at the time I had an undiagnosed thyroid disease, and I didn't realise. Wow. So I thought I just wasn't coping. Mm-hmm. So my beautiful baby and I just pushed through for the first few months. At about 4 months, it started to get a bit better. But when I kind of got to that point and she started feeding better and I started to get a little bit of sleep, something had really changed within me. I think that absolute innate belief that I could do anything as long as I just tried my hardest, which had got me to this great place in my life, didn't work. Motherhood is very different. You can't just read the book, or in my case, as a journalist, you can't just do an interview with someone and get the answer and put it in place. Trust me, I tried. And I really had given away all my power. I did not trust myself as a woman and as a mother. I went to every expert I could find, thinking that there was an answer out there somewhere, and really lost myself in it all. So much of my sense of identity was tied up in my job and in my social group and in the income I was earning and my independence and all of that beautiful stuff that is lost in a moment when you become a mum. So I really started on this journey of trying to discover who I was now. And it's that beautiful baby is now 8.5. So it's been 8.5 years of me trying to figure this out. And I have to say I am still on a daily basis having to re-figure it out over and over again. I said to a beautiful mum that I work with just recently, I have to be honest and say that I thought it would be easier by now, and it's not.
Just
I have
different.
to be honest here.
Yeah.
It's just a daily reminder to myself of how am I going to look after myself? How can I be more calm and connected in the moment? Who am I now that I am a mum, as well as having all of these ambitions and drive? How do I want to live my life? What are my priorities? All of those things. It's still a daily practice and a daily question. So it's been an 8-year journey of me trying to figure out, not only for myself, but for other women now, how do we be who we want to be and be a great mum at the same time?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a juggling act, and I don't think we'll ever get it right. It will just be a work in progress. And like you said, even at 8 years old, it's just different. I don't think people have told me it doesn't get easier. It just is different. They're at different stages, and you'll have a new challenge when you've got past another challenge, and it's just
Yeah,
continual.
it is. It's different challenges. I don't think you ever have the intensity of little kids ever again. I
Yeah.
know that teenagers bring their own sets of challenge, but the physical demand on us as women of that constant neediness, my youngest is 2, so I am still very much in that world of not being able to put him down when he's grumpy, having those broken sleep nights, having that roller coaster of not knowing what my day looks like. I don't think we ever have that again. Ask me when I have teenagers, but I'm pretty sure that physically I'll at least be stronger to deal with whatever with them. So it's still the most unique and I think challenging time of our lives, without a doubt.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Couldn't agree more. So
Yes.
I'd love for you to share with us 3 fun facts about you that people probably don't know. This always stumps people, and I love hearing answers.
The first one is that I've broken my nose 4 times and
Really?
had, yeah, I know. It's the one that everyone goes, really?
Really?
And I had a complete plastic surgery revamp of my nose when I was
Wow.
17 because it was
Wow.
completely smashed. So,
How'd you do that each
yeah,
time?
different
Different things?
different stories. One involves a backward somersault in a spa. Uh,
Oh.
another one involves murder in the dark. I don't
Oh
know if
God,
you remember
yes,
murder in
I
the
do,
dark.
yes.
So that's the big thing that floors
Oh.
everybody. And so yes, people often say to me, "Gee," one of my daughters, "Gee, she looks like you. She's got your nose." And I said, "Well, actually, this is not my nose." So yeah.
Oh, that's funny.
Um, The second one I'll share is that I'm a total nomad. We've lived all over Australia and I absolutely love moving. And I think that that's part of why I always wanted to be a foreign correspondent and travel around. That I was born in Melbourne but spent most of my early years in the Northern Territory, in Alice Springs and Darwin, and then in Adelaide and now in Sydney, and a couple of years in Japan. And so it's
Wow.
been,
Amazing.
yes, yes. And then the third thing I thought I would share, which isn't really me, but it's kind of a cool fact,
Yeah.
which is when we were living in Alice Springs, my dad was a local homicide detective and he worked on the Lindy Chamberlain murder.
Wow.
So that's my claim to fame is that my dad.
Wow. Very
Yeah.
cool.
So it's kind of not about me, but it's
But
about my
still, it's
family.
your
Yeah.
dad. Claim it and own it.
Exactly.
How interesting. That's very
Yeah.
cool. So
Mm.
going back to motherhood, I would love to know, obviously it changes us completely and utterly, but what are some things that maybe surprised you that motherhood brought up, good, bad, honest, whatever it may be?
I mean, I think every day is a total surprise. I think that's the thing. Our generation of women think that we are prepared for what this is going to look like. We are warned that you won't get any sleep, your life will change. There's a lots of almost scary information out there about the reality of motherhood, but when you get into it, it's completely different. I remember my mum always would say, they in their generation they would be told there's no handbook, there's no parenting handbook, but actually in our generation there are a million handbooks, and that's
That's so
actually the
true.
most overwhelming thing, is that you can feel at every moment that you're doing the wrong thing because according to someone out there you are. And I have been surprised at how hard it is for us to trust our instincts and go back to really believing that we are the best mother for our children. It's one of the affirmations that we use a lot in my program, and I have little affirmation cards that a lot of mums use. And one of the most popular ones is that I am the perfect mother for my child. Because
Love it.
yeah, the social media, the parenting courses, all well-meaning, can be really overwhelming, especially if you're struggling, especially if you're finding it hard, if you're having broken nights, if you're really doubting yourself. I think for me, that has constantly been a surprise. And on top of that, I thought going into each of my consecutive babies after my first one that I would know what I was doing. And I have been surprised at how each time, and I've got three, each time I've thought, I still have no idea what I'm doing. I don't.
Oh
I thought,
no, my heart just dropped a little bit.
because
No.
each of them has their own
Yeah,
lessons.
that's true.
Each of them, I think we forget that these are not blank canvases. They arrive with their own little challenges, little souls, little purpose in life. They each come with their own manual, and we have to honor each of their little journeys. And to think that just because it worked with this one, it's going to work with that one. Sometimes you luck out and it does, but a lot of the times it doesn't. Each of us, like individuals, we all need our own way of doing things. And so thank goodness by the third one, I'd really surrendered to that, and came to it with an open mind that I really didn't know what this was going to be like. I remember a very clear moment with my second in the middle of the night, shushing and rocking her and walking around and around and around the lounge room trying to get her to sleep, thinking to myself, oh my God, I didn't think this would happen the second time. I thought that I would have figured it all out, that I would never have those bad days with the second, because surely I've learnt my lesson. And guess what the lesson was? The lesson was there is no lesson, that it is just every day we have to do the best we can.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that is so true. Completely and utterly true. And they've all got their own personalities. And like you said, you know, you might get a good sleeper and then the next one's going to be a crap sleeper. And then, yeah, that's a whole new lesson and journey for you to take as well. Absolutely.
Yes. And also you might get a good sleeper, but then there'll be a terrible
Something
toddler.
else. Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
right. I remember, and
Yeah.
I think I might even include this story in my book, but I remember going to my first mother's group meeting with my first child, and I was the one with the bad baby in that group. I was the one whose baby didn't feed, didn't sleep. I was just not coping, and everyone else, in my hazed view, seemed to be doing so much better. And I remember ringing my mum as I left and crying and saying, I don't think I can go back. It just makes me feel really bad. I'm the worst one there. You know, Scarlett's the worst baby. And she said, Amy, all of those mothers will have their time where they think theirs is the worst. Some of them might not have it until they're 10. Some of them might have those teenagers that run away from home. You know, motherhood is not about this perfect ride. You might be lucky and have perfect moments, but each of us will have a time where we're brought to our knees, where we think, oh my God, I think I'm screwing this up. Yeah. You know, we all have those moments. So with each of my babies, with my children, I've realized that some of them might be good at sleeping, some of them might be good at eating, some of them might be good at school. They're all going to have their moments. Yeah.
Oh, I love that. That's a gem right there. That is great wisdom from your mum. It is completely true, because we're so like, you know, in a lot of parts of our lives, we're future tripping and thinking about the future, but kind of with motherhood, we kind of get stuck. It's good that we're in the present moment, but we can get caught up in it thinking, oh my God, this is horrible. But yeah, if you do have a good sleeper, yeah, you never know that down the track you might have a horrible teenager, like you said, that runs away or that just doesn't listen to you and rebels. And yeah, that's an awesome piece of wisdom.
So that's why I think, in my own experience, that's why we can't wait for the perfect time to start looking after ourselves, or finding ourselves again, or doing something that lights us up, prioritizing ourselves, because there will always be something. That's what life is about. That's what motherhood's about. So if we're waiting for the baby to sleep, or if we're waiting for the toddler to eat, or if we're waiting for someone to help with the babysitting, or whatever it is we're waiting for, it's never going to arrive.
Yeah.
We actually have to start where we are. We have to actually make it about us, and not about waiting for our children to give us the space or time or permission to focus on ourselves. It has to be now, because not only does that help us cope with the tough times so much better, but also it helps us enjoy the whole journey. We're not
Yeah.
putting ourselves on hold. Yeah.
Oh, love it. That's fabulous. So good. So good. Can you share a particular moment in your life that has completely changed the course of your life? So it could be a dark moment or a light moment. Yeah, just something for you that's you've gone this way and then all of a sudden, bam, gone the next way.
Well, you will know what this moment is because you've read my book, but I think the most obvious is I told you a little bit, all the mamas watching, a little bit about the start of my motherhood journey with my first child. And as I started to come out of that early fog of the first newborn, I I decided that the best way to navigate all of this was to just become superwoman. Not consciously, but
Yeah,
it's what I did.
put my
So,
hand up for that too.
that's it. So, okay, motherhood's overwhelming and scary, but that's okay. I'm still going to be the person I'm going to be. My first blog was you don't have to put yourself on hold. It was all about making sure that you still were and did who you were before you had children. And so that for me meant that I still was a senior producer within the ABC on radio and still worked really ridiculous hours, I'd wake up at 3:30 in the morning to go and produce live radio, and then I'd come home and I'd write a blog and I'd squeeze in yoga and I'd be doing all the things that I thought ticks the box of being the best person I could be. I had two children at the time, and then found out, surprise, that we had another baby on the way. And I was 5 months, nearly 5 months pregnant, middle of a federal election, literally running around Sydney trying to do all and be all. And would write on my blog about mindfulness and meditation and yoga and everything, but I was doing it ticking the boxes. I wasn't actually allowing myself to slow down because in my mind, success still looked like doing it all. Nobody's going to tell me that I can't have that great career and have that family and be that wife and friend and sister and everything.
Yeah.
So there was a real, I think, addiction to that busyness. That's once again where my sense of self came from. I thought that I had to do and be all of that to be happy. And then that moment that you were asking about it was a Wednesday morning, and I had been forced to take 2 weeks off work because my cervix was thinning and the doctors were worried. I was 26 weeks pregnant and they said, take 2 weeks off just to make sure you get to the safe 28 weeks. We're a bit worried about how it's looking. So for those 2 weeks, I was so grumpy with the world. I thought, can't believe them telling me I can't do it all. Sat on the couch for my 2 weeks, wrote a blog. I think I, plotted out an ebook and did all of this stuff, but didn't move. And then went back to work on the Monday, and by Wednesday, it was the middle of a federal election campaign, been up at 3:30, still, wearing heels and being the fabulous superwoman that I thought I was. And I remember the moment that this email came through. It was about an interview that was live on air at that time. I hit print and I had to run it into the studio. And I remember putting my hands on my belly and saying, we'd just found out a couple of weeks earlier that we were having a boy, and putting my hands on my belly and saying, hang on, buddy, we've got to run. And I ran into the studio, and within about 5 hours of that moment, the contractions started. And I remember walking into the hospital with these waves coming and thinking to myself, please stay in, 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 please stay in. It was just the scariest moment of my life. And the contractions were coming every 3 minutes in the end. And we had to have the steroids for his lungs, and medicine, amazing modern medicine, did manage to slow it down and stop the contractions over the next 24 hours. And I spent the next 5 days in hospital. And it was really at that time that I sat on that bed and thought, why am I here again? Why haven't I learnt the lesson? Why can't I just let go of this addiction to busyness and be happy for who I am and what I have already? How did I nearly put my son's life at such risk just because I had to try and do it all? And it was that moment that I finally started practicing what I preached. I downloaded all these meditations sitting on that hospital bed and wasn't allowed to work. that was it, and spent the next 10 weeks on the couch. If I walked to the shops, the contractions would start. So I literally for 10 weeks was on the couch until he was born at 38 weeks.
Wow.
And that was the turning point of my life.
Wow. That's just brought tears to my eyes, because I've got exactly the same story, and that just threw me through a loop. It happened for me at 32 weeks, and I kind of thought I could be Superwoman as well, because I'm not only a coach, I'm a personal trainer. So I was still teaching, still taking clients, and I'm doing squats and I'm doing high knees and I'm doing all this stuff thinking, oh yeah, she'll be right. But no, I just went for my 32-week ultrasound, and they just went into panic mode. They're like, Kylie, your cervix is only 6 mil and it's meant to be 20 or 30. Like, we don't know why, but off you go to the obstetrician. Yeah, same as you, steroids and all that. They let me go home, but then I woke up in the middle of the night with contractions. And she tried to come. Lucky, like you, with modern medicine, they were able to stop it. I was in hospital for a week. It's almost the exact same story as yours.
Isn't that amazing?
It is. And I then was okay for a couple of days, and she tried to come again. But thank goodness she came at 40 weeks. She came on her exact due date. But like you, I was, they sent me home, but they're like, you have to be on the couch or in bed. Like, you're not allowed to do anything.
Yeah.
You're not allowed to work on the internet. You're not allowed to do nothing. You just got to look after yourself. And I struggled with that so much. And the thing that I really learnt from all that struggle was the word surrender, that I just had to surrender to it, because there was no point getting all upset and stressed and frustrated by my situation and feeling sorry for myself. Because at the end of the day, like you, I was putting my daughter's life at risk as well. And my point is exactly the same as yours, that turning point where you've got to really take on what you preach. Because I was all about meditation, doing this, that, and the other, but that stuff isn't great if you're not practicing it and being okay with not trying to do everything.
Absolutely. 10 minutes meditation during the day, every day, doesn't make any difference if as soon as that 10 minutes is over, you're multitasking 7 different things and rushing. And the thing is, that's just the model that we've been taught. Like our generation, we really were. And this is what I want to say to anyone who's watching this who does feel a bit like they're addicted to the busyness. I have to, on a daily basis, remind myself not to do that. Yeah. My mind is filled with 7 different new book ideas right now and 3 different opt-ins and 12 different workshops I want to run. And I have to constantly remind myself that that is not what life is about, and that is not what I want to do with my life. And I don't know about you, but my son is still my best teacher with that. If I am multitasking and rushing and doing too much, he cracks it and forces me to stop. Each of my children teach me different things, but he is my absolute Zen master. He is, Mummy, it's going too fast. You're doing too much. Stop.
Yeah, completely.
And that's what he did at 28 weeks, and he's still doing it. And I have to say, I think he will probably do that his whole life for me. I can just imagine this man standing in front of me. In fact, when I was pregnant with him, I had a dream of this man standing in front of me saying, it's going to be okay, Mum. Just slow down. Wow. It's going to be okay.
Wow.
And that's what these beautiful creatures do. They come into our life to teach us things.
Oh, definitely. And I call my daughter my little guru, because she does the same for me. Like, I'm like, I've got to do this and I've got to do that. And that is the day where she won't sleep and she's grumpy and she needs me. And same thing, I've got to remind myself, okay, that can wait. She needs me. I just need to stop and be here right now for her and not be going on about, I've got to do this and that and the other. So completely agree. They're amazing, really. Even though at times we're like, want to pull our hair out because we've got all this stuff to do, it's good to have that reminder that, okay, obviously I need this because she's telling me, stop, Mum. It's just time to just calm down.
Yeah, and I think to remember for the mums that are watching that we have to be kind to ourselves around this. This is really a different way of us figuring out how to be happy and how to be successful and who we are, because so much of our life was built around our success and what we did and our worth in society. Like, motherhood is not valued. staying at home, and even if you're just at home 1 or 2 days a week with your little one, that it is so not valued. We are judged, and we are our idea of success is based on what we earn, what we do, how much we achieve each day. There's a lot of pressure on us to do and be more.
Yep.
So to try and stop that, you have to be really kind to yourself. It's not as if you've done that all on your own. You have to really relearn a lot of things, and that's what I've had to do. So it is a process that takes time.
Oh, completely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Couldn't agree more. I would now love to go in and talk about your amazing book that I have here.
Mm-hmm.
For the mums watching, you have to get this book. It is amazing. I was telling Amy, I read like 6 or 8 pages and I got straight on to Amy saying, I need to interview you. It is just such a beautiful, beautiful book. It's called Happy Mama, The Guide to Finding Yourself Again. I would love for you to just take us through what inspired this book. And for the mums that don't know, can you give us a little bit of rundown on what it's about?
Yeah, it starts with my story, which I've pretty much shared here, about the journey from overachieving journalist woman to that moment on the hospital bed at 28 weeks. But then from there, it shares what I feel are the 6 areas in our life as women that we need to reconnect with. We need to think about now that we're mothers and bring into our life to try and be that whole woman that we want to be. It isn't a parenting guide. It isn't got anything to do with your children. It is all about you as a woman now that you're a mum, because we don't get a chance to ask ourselves those big questions about who am I now, what's important to me, what do I want my life to look like. From that moment they put that baby on our chest, that is it. We don't have time to catch our breath until they leave home. And nowadays, that's probably about 30 years.
Yes, there's an extra decade now for us.
So, although hopefully by the time my kids are old, it's not the case anymore. I found as a journalist, because what I did was I really went out and started researching this and asking. I'm very, very blessed. I have amazing access to some pretty amazing people around the world. I get to interview some of the best self-care and mindfulness and meditation experts for my job as writing for magazines or for the media. And whenever I would do an interview for a magazine, I'd always sneak a couple of questions at the end about motherhood. I'd sort of say, I also write this blog, and I was wondering, what about mindfulness for mothers when they don't even get to have a shower on their own every day? And so I've kind of been gathering these tips for myself and for my blog for years. And when I sat down and looked at it, it was really clear that there were these 6 areas that we needed to look at. Things like how to be kind to ourselves and tune into the thoughts that we're telling ourselves every day about our life. Whether it's the first thing you think when you wake up, which is, I'm so exhausted, I don't want to do this today, to the thing that you're telling yourself when the baby's having a tantrum in the middle of the supermarket. Everybody's looking at me, I'm such a terrible mother. All of the things that you're telling yourself, how do you tune into that and start to change and lovingly be kind to yourself? How do you start to value yourself again now that you don't have the income you might have had, or the success or the external validation? How to trust yourself as a woman and as a mum and connect with your intuition. How to get through those really tough moments and be mindful. These really key, steps or tools that we needed to be able to be a happy mama, to be able to prioritise ourselves without the guilt, without thinking that it means going to the day spa. This isn't about me time in that sense. I think that's actually a really negative idea, because when we don't get the day spa, we get bitter and angry, but also we get to the day spa and we just feel guilty that we're there. What I mean by self-care and me time is little pockets throughout our day of how we start to be kind to ourselves. How do we enjoy this time? How do we be calm when things are absolutely falling apart, chaotic around us? All of those things, hopefully, packed into that little book.
It is. And it's all mums need to have it. Like, as soon as they have a baby, this should be given to them.
I know, I'd love that. handed out at the hospital.
Yes, exactly. Here you go.
Yes, please.
Congratulations. Have
Yes.
this. Because like you said, we're inundated with this is how you should raise a baby, and this is how you make a baby sleep, and this is how you breastfeed, and blah 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 blah. And there's nothing out there that just says, here, be a happy mum. Like, and like you said, it's simple little things that you can do in your day. And that's the message I share with my readers and followers. The same thing, you know, if you've got 2 minutes to do a meditation, do that if that's just going to bring you back down to earth and just calm you down, or go out and get some fresh air. It's all those little pockets of things that you can do that I think is just so important for us mums to do. Because like you said, we either don't have the money to go to a day spa, or we do get there and we're just thinking about, oh my God, we should be home, and, you know, husband's looking after the child, I feel bad. And who can enjoy that when you're thinking about all that crap? So yeah, I really, really love your book. So thank you so much for writing it and publishing it. It's just amazing.
Thank you.
Of
I'm
course.
so glad.
It's, yeah, really good. And I'll be recommending it to everybody. And I'm going to give away a copy as well to all my email
Oh,
subscribers.
great.
Yeah. So no, it's awesome. So still on the topic of motherhood, I'm very real and honest with what I put out in my emails, my social media, showing that motherhood isn't just sunshine and roses, which can be on social media because we compare ourselves to that. So I'm very raw and real with what I put out, and I'd love for you to share, if you could, you know, 1 or 2 moments of motherhood where you've just like almost been broken. Like the other day on social media, I posted a video of me just after crying. I was sitting on the floor in my kitchen because my daughter wouldn't sleep. She's just turned 1. She's wanting to drop a day nap, and all in my head, I'm like, no, she can't, you know, like I've got this to do and da 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 da. And I was just not coping. I was just overwhelmed. So I'd love for you to just share with us a couple of really raw moments that you've been encountered during your motherhood so far.
Look, I'm the same. I'm very honest about this, and I'm very conscious of not putting out the impression that I have it all together,
Yeah.
and that my meditations happen every single morning, and that I'm always that, you know, guru woman, because that's actually so far from the truth, it's not funny. But I do remember when you said that you would ask this question, I do remember one point which, you know, there's so many moments where I've been brought to my knees by sleep and tantrums and food. Oh, my 3rd child, my son, is the most worst eater of them all. And once again, you'd think by the 3rd I'd know what I was doing. No. So there's been lots of tears around that. Like, oh my God, I can't believe it. But I do remember, because I was trying to think about what would be the best example to share with your viewers. I remember last year, perhaps a year and a half ago, I had a little 6-month-old, and I wanted my 2 daughters who love ballet to go to this amazing ballet school around the corner. And I think so often as mums, we just juggle too much. We just try and squeeze in too much. It comes back to that superwoman idea. But we're not always being superwoman just for ourselves. We're also being super mums for these children. We just look at their lives as they need to do this, they need to do that, we have to have this, we have to do that, we've got to do this play date, we've got to have that school, we've got to, you know, it's really this amazing pressure and expectation we put on ourselves. And my daughters had ballet 2 different nights a week. They're both at school by that stage, so we'd have school during the day and then ballet 2 nights a week from 5:30 to 6:30, nightmare time for a 6-month-old. I'd get stuck in Sydney traffic twice a week, but it was the best ballet school I could find. And every week, I will be totally honest, I would either end up screaming or crying in the car, because my 6-month-old would be hungry and tired and screaming in the back of the car, and I would be having a panic attack in traffic thinking, I can't get home, where am I going to feed him? I'm going to have to pull over in the car park and I'm going to have to do this. And I did this for weeks and weeks, putting myself through this because it was the best for my children, to the point where I had to decide that it wasn't worth it. It really, what I was putting myself through, but also what I was putting all 3 of them through, rushing all the time, It wasn't worth it. And it was this really big moment. I even cried to the ballet teacher when I pulled them out because I was like, I really love it here. I'm really sorry. It's just that the traffic's so bad and I can't do it. And I felt like such a failure for a really ridiculous reason. But it was because so much of what I talk about is about the expectations we put on ourselves to be able to do it all. You know, I see mums who work, you know, nearly full-time or full-time and then also expect themselves to be able to do, you know, volunteer at the daycare committee and do it. Like, my goodness, it's not what it's about. It's not what it's about. And I had to have a really hard talk to myself about, why are you doing this? It's not actually that great for the girls to see their mum this upset and stressed every week. And for them to be always feeling to be rushed and having late dinners and the baby screaming. So we pulled out of the dance school. We found a very basic little one around the corner on a Saturday that they both do classes at the same time. And now after school, we have a totally different routine. We come home and they jump on the trampoline or they do different things. You know, there's a different pace that I've really had to allow myself to embrace, because as a superwoman and overachiever, my pace is fast. Let's get this done. Let's move. Come on, everybody. And I've had to really remind myself that that's not what I want to teach them. It's not the way that I want them to grow up thinking of success or their life, and that it's okay to say no to the great ballet school when it means that the rest of us are going to be healthier and happier. So that was a really big turning point for me as well.
Oh, that is such a great lesson. Because like you said, we want to give the best to our children. But if that's at the expense of yourself, and they can see you and sense you in this state of anxiety and stress, that's not, like you said, not good for them.
It was this realization of, I don't know, this is a line from a movie, I'm not sure, where it's like, are we having fun yet? Like, this is no fun for anybody. Here I am in the front of the car crying. There's the baby screaming. The other two are like on the iPad because they're stuck in traffic. Like, tell me why I'm doing this again. Is this why I had children? Is this why they're doing ballet? No. So why the hell am I doing this? Because somewhere along the way, I told myself, we can afford a great ballet school. Let's do it. That's what we have to do. Like, you know, we put these unrealistic expectations on ourselves. When it comes down to it, it's not what it's important. That's not what's important.
That is such a great tip. I love it.
Oh, I hope so.
Definitely. Because I haven't thought about it like that, because I'm the same. I just want the best for Ava, and I'll do whatever I can do to make sure she gets the best. But if it's just not working in the family and everyone's just pulling their hair out, how is she going to end up enjoying it? So love
it.
That's fantastic.
That. So you just got to ask yourself that question. Are we having fun yet?
Yes, exactly. Write that on a post-it note. Stick it somewhere.
That'll be my next pack of affirmation cards.
Exactly. Oh, that's so good. So good. I would love for you to share with the mamas watching a little tip or a piece of advice or something that they can implement into their day or week that you find really, really helpful, whether it's for yourself or for your clients.
Yeah. Well, it's both. It's for myself and for my clients. And look, there's so many actual daily practices that we can introduce as mums to help us really start to connect to ourselves again and prioritize ourselves and be calmer when we need it. In my Reconnect program, we start with a 3-minute meditation. Like, there's actual tools that you could do. But I often think that they almost seem, even 3 minutes, it's hard to find during the day. And so we need something that we can do in the moment. And what I find really helps with that is realizing that when we're all up in our head, that's when we get overwhelmed and stressed and multitask, and even the littlest things will set us off, you know, like someone drops something or the kids start fighting and it's just like, what? It's because in those moments we're actually in our head writing an email, worrying about that, and also cooking the dinner. So when I catch myself really in that multitasking monkey mind, as the Buddhists call it, it's a really great practice to do, is to get back into your body. So actually physically imagine the energy in your mind, that busyness. It's really great to even tune into it, because it feels like the the static electricity on the TV when you're between channels. It's
Mm.
like this. If you once you start tuning into your energy, you can actually feel it. It's like a zzz kind of buzzing.
Mm-hmm.
It's so unsettled and active. And if you can, even when you're walking, cooking, whatever, feel that energy in your mind and then take a couple of big breaths. And you can sort of just start to calm that static energy in your mind and then slowly start with your breath moving through each part of your body and even naming the parts of the body as you're going down. So, moving through my chest, through my belly, down my legs. And you can feel, it's quite amazing how you can feel it moving all the way down into your feet. And then imagining your feet as anchors down into the ground.
Mm-hmm.
So what this does is two things. First, it gets us out of our head and back into our body. And the instant we're in our body, we're back in the moment. Because when we're in our head, we're either future tripping or worrying about the past. We're not actually even there. I mean, how many mums watching this know that you read your child a story at the end of the day, before bed, and you get to the end of the story and you think, I don't even know what I just read. I was actually thinking about something completely different.
Yeah.
I wasn't even here. I don't even know what I just read.
Yeah.
So when we connect back into our physical form, and you would know this as a as a personal trainer, when we connect with our physical body, we're in the moment.
Mm-hmm.
There's nowhere else we
Yeah.
can be. We have to be here. So that stops that monkey mind. But then focusing on the feet on the ground, it connects us to Mother Earth. It connects us to that grounding moment. We're back in our body. Our energy is connected back into the ground, and we can kind of center ourselves again and then move on with whatever we need to do with our family or our work or whatever. But it's about getting out of our minds and back into our body. That really is that circuit breaker for that overwhelm and that real static energy.
Oh, I love it.
So hopefully that's something that anybody can use at any time.
Oh, it's fantastic. And it's those little things that we can just like quickly pull out and just like do in the moment.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's
Yeah.
awesome.
And I think connecting with that idea of that, it's almost like the channel's on the wrong, you're on the wrong channel in your mind. You can really, even just after a couple of practices, you can really connect with that buzzy energy. And that's our nervous system, overstressed.
Mm.
And what we need to do is, breathing as I'm talking about it, you need to
breathe. Yeah.
It's okay.
Yeah.
It's all right. It's not a race. It's okay for me to be a bit slower at this time. So, yeah.
Awesome.
That's a really great practice. No, you're
Fantastic.
welcome.
Thanks for sharing that. That's great. And the last question to finish up, because we're nearly done. It's gone so quick. How would you like to be remembered?
I would like to be remembered as someone who had grace. Now, if you read my book, this is one of the focuses. It is my greatest life lesson. Grace to me means dealing with the ups and downs with grace, being calm and focusing on love and not fear, and really moving through life, learning and growing, but with grace. And I hope that it's what I'm teaching my children, but also what I'm helping other mothers and women discover as well, that women are filled with grace naturally. It's just that we're so used to working in a masculine way of to-do lists and goals and striving, that when we can come back to that beautiful presence of everything's going to be okay, I'm going to be able to handle it and I can get through this, then I hope that I am remembered for that and that I can hand that on to other people around me.
Oh, beautiful. What a beautiful way to finish.
Oh, thank you.
No worries.
Beautiful questions.
That's good. I'm glad. Thank you so much for joining me. It's just been such a pleasure talking with you, Amy, and I'm sure the mums watching are going to get so much wisdom and tips to implement into their lives and make their lives that little bit easier. So thank you.
I hope so. Thank you for asking me.
Of course. Thank you. You enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you.
Thanks, Amy. Bye.
Bye.